Hello, friend. This is Ryan Hicks of the resellermindset.com. And for this Reseller Friday, I want to talk to you about the myth of scams on eBay. And I'm not talking about scams such as buyers being scammed by sellers, because eBay's buyer protection covers them. So that's pretty much null. But what I am talking about is something a lot of sellers and people who at least are on the outskirts of reselling talk about, which is, oh, you get scammed by buyers all the time on eBay. Now, the thing is to note with a lot of these people is they barely sell anything in the first place. So it makes you wonder, how are they getting scammed all the time when they barely have any sales? I've sold hundreds of thousands of things over the years, and the amount of scams is super minimal. Now, do some buyers try to scam you? Yes. But here's the thing. I had a buyer one time, they bought a robot vacuum and they said it didn't work and they returned it. But what they returned was a different vacuum. It was the same model and everything, but the serial number did not match. Now, because I put the serial number in the pictures and what I received obviously was a different serial number, you know what happened? eBay just reimbursed me. I don't know what they did on the customer's end, if they refunded them or not, but I got fully reimbursed. So everything was fine. And that's what I've seen over and over again. eBay will make it right. Now, if you're having a pattern of always getting quote unquote scammed, do you even know what a scam is? Because I've seen people say they're getting scammed because somebody returned a VCR that didn't work. They're scamming me. I know it worked before they got it. So you ship a vintage piece of electronics with a lot of moving parts and gears and belts in there. The belts that do go bad, especially if they're 20, 30 years old, and wonder how it could possibly not work when the customer received it because you tested it out for 2 minutes. Not everything is a big scam. It's very possible you shipped that vintage VCR across the country. It did work fine when you tested it, but you only tested it for a few minutes, which is something important to note. You don't know for sure that thing works through an entire VHS tape. Maybe at the 1 hour mark it turns off because it gets too hot. I had a treadmill before, after about an hour or so of running or walking on it, it would just turn off because it overheated. Well, if I'd sold that treadmill to somebody and they wanted to go for a 2 hour walk, they couldn't. It would turn off. Now, after about 30 minutes or so, it was cooled down and you could do it again. But the point is, just because somebody has a return doesn't mean you're getting scammed. And yes, you could have tested something for a short period of time and it worked fine, and the customer gets it and it not work fine. Whether because they actually want to watch an entire movie and not just test it out, or because maybe it got damaged somewhere in transit. Even if the box looks perfect, just getting jostled around and moved around and bouncing around on a truck somewhere can cause a lot of damage to 30-year-old plastic and little rubber belts that are basically like rubber bands. If they get stretched out a little bit too far, they don't go back to their original shape. They're a little bit bigger. And the first time you turn the thing on, the belt snaps off or slides off and it doesn't work. And I'm not here to defend customers. My point is just that not everything's a scam. And the amount of actual scams, I've sold hundreds of thousands of items, the amount of actual scams being experienced are pretty small. And eBay will protect you in most cases. But here's the important thing. You have to have a track record of being deserving of being protected as a seller. Many of these sellers who aren't getting a favorable result are arguing with their customers in the messages. They're not providing a good customer experience. Why would eBay want to defend you when nothing about your behavior seems professional? Nothing about your behavior indicates that maybe you did the right things. You have to take your emotion out of it. This is what I discuss about in the reseller mindset. You got to have a different mindset. You can't be emotionally attached to your items. You can't be emotionally attached to a little bit of money because you might have to refund somebody. Will you have to take losses sometimes? Perhaps. Does that matter in the overall scheme of things? Absolutely not. You should be making enough money that this is just a part of doing business. A little tiny fraction of a percentage of your business expenses is returns and damages in transit. The nice thing about damage in transit, I say nice, but it's not really nice, that the customer doesn't receive what they wanted. But almost all the carriers have built-in insurance of at least up to $100. So you generally have some protection. In many cases, you get made whole, so it's no big deal. Now, one thing I do need to tell you about, if you're a new reseller, you're newly selling on eBay, is that you are more likely to be getting scammed. Now, it comes in different ways. Oftentimes it comes through things like somebody will say, well, I just bought this, but I need you to send it to this address instead. The issue being you're shipping to a different address than what the customer originally checked out with. It goes to somewhere else. You have no proof that it was delivered to where it's supposed to go because it wasn't. It was shipped to a different address. They're able to scam you out of your money. Now, that is easily avoidable by just not shipping to addresses other than the ones that the person used when checking out. Now, oftentimes I will, especially on a smaller item, somebody says, oh, I used my old address. Can you ship it to this address instead? I'll just do it because the amount of times there's been an issue has been very minimal, and it's just a small little item. So if it's $20, $30 loss, no big deal. It makes the customer have a good experience. eBay can also see the messages and see what you were told and how you responded quickly and send it to them anyway. It might be a gray area, but you're trying to provide the best experience for the customer. And customers do make mistakes sometimes. They're not all trying to scam you because they want you to ship to a different address. Sometimes they just check out, they're not paying attention, and it has an old address and they've moved since the last time they purchased something on eBay. And so it'll be going to an old address. If you're really concerned about that, just say, hey, we can only ship to the address that was confirmed during checkout. What I can do is cancel it, and you go in and cancel for address issues and have them repurchase the item using the correct address. No big deal. It is a little bit of a pain for the customer, so they may not purchase after that, but that is something you can do to avoid being scammed. And when you're a new seller on there, you have to understand that the professional scammers will look for new resellers because they don't know what's going on in the platform. They're new and they're more easily going to be scammed. But even with that, the amount of scammers on eBay, buyers who are scamming sellers, is very minimal. I know some people are going to say, well, this happened to me and that happened to me. Yes, we've all had issues, but too many people are afraid. I've even seen people say, I'm not going to sell on eBay because there's so many scammers on there. What do you think, the scammers don't go to any other site? It's insane. And like I said, eBay does do a good job of protecting sellers if you show and have proven with a track record that you are a good seller. They will help you out and work with you many times, and many times make you whole. But let's say even they didn't. It's just a part of doing business. If you open a storefront somewhere, you would have shrinkage, which means you would have people shoplifting from you. You would have employees stealing from you. It's part of every brick and mortar store out there. They have a certain percentage of shrinkage. They know it occurs. It's part of doing business. It's built into their business model. They know they have this percentage of losses from people stealing from their store. So it makes sense that could occur online as well. It just needs to be factored into your business. Now, this is going to be very important for you. If you do, for whatever reason, have a lot of scammers you run into, you need to really examine what you are selling. If you are selling something that attracts that kind of customer over and over again, you might need to consider a different category to sell in, because that does not sound like a great category. There are categories that bring in more potential problem buyers, and you have to know that. And once you do realize that, you can't just keep selling the same items and then whining about getting scammed. You already know that. If you've already experienced that over and over again and you keep selling the same items, at what point do you take personal responsibility to say, this is my fault because I keep doing the same thing, hoping for different results? What you need to focus on as a reseller is finding the best products possible, listing them as quickly as possible, meaning don't stack up stuff in the corner of a room and have a death pile, shipping as quickly as possible, and providing the customer the best experience possible. If you do that over a long enough period of time, you will have great results, you'll have a great business, you'll have great income coming in, and you'll have very minimal scammers. You can listen to all these resellers who are having problems, a lot of them self-caused, the resellers who think everybody's scamming them because they want to return an item, or just any of this nonsense out there, or you can just go out there and do your best and adapt and pivot as needed and go out there and become a great success. Or you can be like all these other people and fret and worry over scammers, get online babbling about scammer did this, scammer did that, and by that, even attract more scammers into your business, causing you more and more problems in this infinite self-fulfilling prophecy of scammer and problem and all these issues, when you could instead just choose to have a great reseller mindset and go forth doing your best and becoming a great success in the process. My friend, I pray this is a blessing for you. May God bless you richly.